Welcome to this Twilight on Microsoft Forms. My name is Lisa Antani and I teach digital literacy and computer science at Lindsay Meadow Primary School. My background is in software development before I did the teaching postgrad. And I'm back at uni doing a teaching qualification in computer science. And I'm a member of East Dunbartonshire Council's MIEE team alongside Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie Barry and I'm the school librarian at Bearstown Academy and Lindsay Academy. And I am a MIEE expert.
So why use forms? Basically, anytime you think about gathering any kind of data at all, you should automatically think of forms. It's brilliant. You can easily create surveys, quizzes and polls, and you can see the results as they're being submitted. We use them in Lindsay Meadow for all kinds of things. The office staff use them for things like the children's Christmas lunches and permissions, allergies, all this kind of data gathering that they do at the beginning of the school year or throughout the school year. I use them in Teams a lot for quizzing pupils about what they'd like the class avatar to be or what they'd like to do in the next video call. It's great for quizzes and assessments, and it's also really great for self-assessing the pupils. I tend to do that at the beginning of a unit of learning and then again at the end. And it's really great for highlighting gaps in knowledge and helping you then move forward with your lesson planning. And it also puts all the assessment data together for you in Excel, which you can then graph and chart and do all sorts of things with. It can also, one of my favourite features, is give immediate feedback to pupils so that the minute they complete a quiz, they can go back, review it and see which answers they got right and where they need to perhaps put a little more revision and work into for those answers that they got wrong. So first thing to think about is how do you actually access forms. So you can access forms from Glow using the Office 365 tile, or when you're actually within an app in Glow, you can click on the waffle menu and get into it that way. And recently, Microsoft have released an update which allows you to now create forums on the Office 365 app on mobile devices. So previously you did have to be on a laptop, desktop computer to make a form, but now you can do that on a mobile device, which is a great update. So creating a form, I'm just going to stop sharing this bit. So when you're within Glow, if you click over on the waffle and click on 365, it's not coming up in the short, you can see that there is an app here for forms. So you just click on that and that brings you in here to the forms homepage. Microsoft recently updated this and changed it, so we now have options along the top to see forms that we've recently used, forms that we've pinned, and forms that other people have shared with you. So we've now got these different options here, which is quite handy. And down here in these ellipses, you can see that you have the option to add something to your pinned menu. So if you're currently collecting data for a form and you're wanting to keep an eye on it, it's a good idea to pin it so that it instantly comes up, because you can end up having an awful lot of forms. So that's quite a handy option to have. And if you scroll down, you can see you can go to all of your forms. And within here, you can view them as a list, or you can view them as a tile. So this is currently my collection of forms. So that's that. You can also go in to deleted forms in case you accidentally delete one and recover it from in there, which is a new feature which I quite like. So this is the forms homepage there. Now, if I go back, so this is the main homepage here. It defaults to creating a new quiz, but you can also create a new form, which is quite confusing, I think, because a form can be like a form or it can be a quiz. You would use the quiz when there is a right and a wrong answer to the questions that you're asking, and Jackie's going to show you that in a little while. But I'm going to start off by showing you how to create a new forum, and you would use this one when there isn't a right and a wrong answer. So the sorts of times that you would use this is when you're gathering data such as, you know, pupils' opinions for, say, for a book report where there is no right and wrong answers. You'd be using that form. I would use it also for self-assessment. So where do pupils feel they're at the moment in their learning, at the beginning of a unit of learning, and then I would duplicate it and do it again at the end. So there isn't a right and wrong answer within there. So that's the sorts of times you'd be looking to create just a new forum rather than a quiz. So if you click on the new form, straight away it brings you into this template, and the first thing to think about is your title. So I'm just going to put sample form. Let's put a little description in here. So this is our title. Over here on the right, you'll see I've got the option to insert an image. So if you click on that, it brings you over to a search. So if I wanted to have, I don't know, a picture of question mark one. And you can have a little image alongside your title. The next thing you would want to do is add questions into your form. So you simply click on Add New, and you have a number of different types of options come along here. So I'm just going to take you through each of the options so that you're aware of how they work. First up is choice. So if, for example, this was a forum to assess last week's home learning, I could ask, is there anything you found difficult this week? And again, I have the option, if I wish, to add an image over here. And down here where it says options, sorry, my wireless mouse is going a bit mad, I can put obviously yes or no. You can, if you were asking a different sort of question, accept multiple answers. Obviously, in this instance, I wouldn't want to. It would be a yes or a no. So I'm going to make sure that is untoggled. This required option here, if you toggle that, it brings up, when you review your form, it brings up a star next to this question. And what that means is that pupils will not be able to submit the form without completing this question. So most of the time, you do want to make sure that that required toggle button is on, because you do want to know an answer to that question. So if you toggle that and they try to submit without that being answered, they will get an alert saying, you know, you have not answered question 1, and that prompts them to then go back and address that. So that's a really useful option. If we click on the ellipses here, you can see we have the choice of a drop-down menu, which is quite handy. So I can change that to drop down. We're not seeing it at the moment, but if I click on preview up at the top here, we can now see that there's a little key here that tells us star means required, and this question is required, which is great. And you click here and you can select yes or no. So that's just telling you what it looks like to the pupil. So if I scroll down here and add my next question in. So if I add new, this time I'm going to go for text. I'm going to put, if you answered yes to the above question, please give details below. So if they did find something particularly difficult, I would like to know what that is. Now, obviously, this time I wouldn't toggle required, because it may well be that they've got on absolutely fine and they've answered no to that question. So in this one instance, I'm not going to toggle that. If they type a huge, big, long answer, what it'll do is it will just continue typing on, and you'll lose the text to the left. So it can be quite difficult for them to sort of go back and look at what they've read, because it just does it in one long continuous scroll. So if you anticipate that they may well answer more than what they could fit into this box, you want to toggle the long answer bit here. and that just means that they can go back and review what they've typed, and it's a bit easier for them to read. So we've gone through a choice and a text one. If we add more, there is a rating option here. So you might ask something along the lines of, if you were looking at a particular class novel, for example, you might say, how would you rate Kensuke's Kingdom? And you can choose the number of stars down the side here, up to 10, or you can choose to have it as a number rating rather than a star rating. And in this instance, I would want that to be a required question because I want everyone to answer that. So that's the ratings. Next up, we have got the date option here. So if you were doing, for example, some sort of presentation or show and tell, you could put here, like, what date would you like to present your talk? And what happens then is they're prompted to click on a calendar. Let me just show you that. So if I go into preview, when pupils click here, you might say, you know, next week, and they can go in and choose the particular date that suits them. Unfortunately, Forms doesn't let you restrict the dates that are chosen. So technically they could go in and choose a date a couple of years in the future. So just be aware of that it doesn't let you restrict the choices, but still it's something that might come in handy for you. So that's our date option there. Let's go back. And again, I'm going to add new, and it looks as if there is just 4 types, but if we click here, there is actually some more. So we've got a ranking option here. And ranking allows pupils to drag various options that you set in order. You know, if it's the beginning of the year, I quite like to ask, please arrange these subjects in order of preference. So for this one, you could have, say, literacy, numeracy, computer science, and you can obviously add in extra options along here. You could have PE. If you decide not to use one of them, you can go back and just click on the bin. It gets rid of it for you. Again, I'm making sure that this is required because I do want them to complete this. And if I go to preview, you'll see that it lets the pupils drag those around. Obviously computer science would be at the top, and put them into order there. So it's quite a nice one to use. I then go to add new. The Likert scale is quite useful. If you're doing a bit of self-assessment, you could put something like, how do you rate your confidence in these areas? And then you might have something like I can statements down here. So, you know, I can convert binary to decimal. And you could have things like, strongly agree, neutral, not sure, don't know, and then you could have something like, I can convert binary to hexadecimal. And some different statements down here that pupils then have to go through and choose how they're feeling with that. Let me just show you how that looks. So a statement comes up and they go through and self-assess where they feel they're at. That's really great for looking at where pupils' gaps in knowledge lie, and for planning your lessons. That's a really useful one. I like that one. And next up, we have got file upload. File upload is a fairly new one, and what it allows pupils to do is to add like a video file or an audio file or a picture. It basically allows them to upload. You can set that they can upload, I think it's up to 10 different files, and you can also set a file size limit on there. So you might want to ask something like, put in a statement like school uniforms should be abolished. Upload an audio or a video file explaining your thoughts on this. So that's really a nice way of getting feedback from pupils that isn't necessarily text-based. So you've got that in there. And next up, we've got Net Promoter Score. So we could ask, how likely are you to recommend Matilda to a friend? And then obviously over here, you might want to insert some media, which would be a picture of the Matilda book cover. And we can add that in. And if we preview that, people simply can go from not at all likely to extremely likely, and put what they think of that in there. Let's go back. So that's basically all the different types of questions that you can ask in a form or a quiz. Some little extras that you might want to add in is if you're doing something that's really, really long, for example, the health and well-being assessments, where some of them have got, I think the upper schools, they've got 40 odd questions. It can be really disheartening because when the pupils open up that form, and the first thing they do is they scroll all the way down, and you think, oh, this is going to take forever. So a really nice thing that you can add in down here when you're doing a new question is a section. And what that does is, you'll notice now that says section 2 there. What that'll do is when pupils have finished completing the questions that I've already put in, they're prompted to click next to go to the next set of questions. And it's just a lot more motivating to look at, maybe 3 or 4 questions and looking at 30 all at once. So making use of that section is a really nice way to sort of reduce overload or really dishearten them. So that's a really handy one to add in there. Another thing worth looking at is when you're in a question, just on the upper right, if you click on a question, you'll see here that you can copy it. So if you're asking a lot of similar questions, you could just copy it and change it slightly. If you decide you don't like it at all, you can just click on there and delete it altogether. Or if you decide that you're happy with the question but you want it further up on the quiz, you can just click these up buttons until it goes where you want it to. Or similarly, you can click down and move it further down towards the end of your quiz. And it's really easy to do that. And when you're in preview, as well as previewing it as normal on your desktop computer, you can click on mobile and just have a check that everything looks as it should do on a mobile device. Particularly useful if you're using images and things like that, just to keep an eye that it looks all right, because you don't know what devices your pupils will be using. So it's a good idea to keep an eye on that. So that's the basics of all of the various different questions on a form. Another thing worth mentioning is that when your pupils go into the form, and they hover over a question, you will see the immersive reader comes up, this little book icon with the speaker. Now if they click on that, there's various different preferences here, so that it can play.
Sample form. Used for training.
So they can change it from a female voice to a male voice. They can change the speed of the voice. And over here, they can increase the spacing, change the font, put on various different backgrounds, which is really useful for dyslexia. They can highlight different types of words within the questions. You can toggle these on and off. And you can also line focus, which is really useful for removing distractions. We've also got a picture dictionary here, so if you click on that, I had it in Japanese mode. You can have translation on, various different languages, and you can translate by word, or you can translate the entire document. So it's now translated that to Japanese, which is really useful for children who speak English as an additional language, or children who are learning an additional language. That can be a really useful feature. So just be aware that Immersive Reader is automatically built into forms, and is really, really useful for accessibility. So now I'm going to pass over to Jackie, who's going to take you through creating a quiz as opposed to a forum.
Right. Okay. We'll just click on the new quiz. Now, as a librarian, I actually use quizzes quite a lot because I run quite a few competitions. But obviously, you could use a quiz as part of the children's homework, or just checking what level they are at certain subjects. So, first thing you need to do is obviously give it a title. So I'll just put in book quiz. And oops, it's a good start. Again, I would just put in an image. Okay, so I would always search Bing for an image, so I'll just put in book quiz. And I'll just pick one and hopefully add it. I think it's quite good to put a lot of pictures into a quiz just to make it a wee bit more fun. So I need to put in the description, so I'll just ask them to answer the following questions. Questions to enter the, oops. Okay, so that's me telling them what they can do, and what I want to do is add the first question. Okay, and I would always use multiple choice, the choice ones, because then you've got a right and wrong answer. So my first question, let's just say, who wrote Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief? I put that in, and I'd also always try and include a picture. So let's have a wee look. So you can have a video or an image, go for an image, and I would just put Percy Jackson. They'll come up with a picture. Yep, put that one in. There we go. And of course, you just have to put in the answers. So we can have Anthony Horowitz. Second option, we'll put in Jacqueline. And finally, just add in many options you want. We'll actually put in the right one. Just spell Reardon. Right. Always remember to actually set the right question as the correct answer. So you just have to click that. Okay. If you're running a competition or a piece of homework, you want them to answer all the questions. So again, I would make it a required question. Also, you might want to add how many points they get for answering the question. So we could put that they get 10 points for answering a question correctly. We also, if you look at them, we highlight them, there's a little bubble there, and you can actually give some feedback. So you could put, well done, if they got the correct answer. But also you can add ones to maybe the wrong answer as well. You could put sorry, wrong answer. You were doing a topic like geography and they were obviously talking maybe about mountain ranges and they got it wrong. You could maybe add something like a note in there saying, go back, reread the handouts on mountain ranges. So you can put in positive feedback, but just get them to revise some topics for you. Let's take that one out. Sorry, wrong answer. Okay, so that's it. So you'd make up all your questions. So you've now got your points. You've got it as required. So now you can actually just carry on and fill in all your questions that you want. I want to actually add another question to show you how to add a maths question, okay, which is really handy. So you can click on the maths on the drop-down menu here. Obviously, I'm not a mathematician, so I'm really going to put in a very easy answer. So question, so it's going to be solve X. Okay, and want to do that, enter the equation, and it brings up all the symbols you need and all the numbers. So we'll just do x2 plus 3 equals 7, and it'll put it in for you. Now, if you notice down here, it's giving you the right answer, but it's giving you 3 options that you can add in as well. So you don't even need to think up about making other wrong answers. It's there for you. So if you just add all, and it enters it all for you, and as you can see, it gives you the correct answer. And because you said earlier that they're all required questions, it still stays at required, and the 10 points as well for that. The good thing to do is that when you start a quiz, I would always preview it before you ever send it out to anybody to make sure that it's actually what you're looking for. As you can see, there's the immersive reader and the quizzes as well. So I'm just going to fill this one in, and I'm going to fill it in wrong and then submit it. And I'm actually just going to do that again because I want more than one. Result. So like go there and submit that. Okay. So as you can see up here at responses, there are now 2 responses. Okay, so that's who's actually responded to it. Oh, sorry, I skipped a wee bit there. I'll just go back, sorry. So that's your quiz done. I'm going to look at the results later on. But I'll just preview it because I wanted you to actually see the results. So we'll do click again. Sorry about that. And I'll just submit it. But when you get the submit up, this is what I was wanting to show you. If you click on view results, the pupils will be able to see what their points are, and they'll be able to look at the questions to see which ones they got right. So obviously the Percy Jackson one I got right, but I got this one wrong, so the pupils will get immediate feedback about what they've done. Okay, so we'll just go back. Right, so what you can do is you can actually put a quick poll into your forms, into your teams. Okay, so we'll just nip back to one of my teams, and I'm just going to put a quick poll in here. So do a new conversation, and you can click on the 3 dots and you can click on forms, or you can just type in @forms and it will appear for you. And it's what can I do, and you want to create a poll. So this is really good if you just want to start a discussion within your group, or you get some instant feedback. So that's your form. There's just one question you can ask, so you can take that out and we'll type in a question. What is a Jaffa cake? And you can add in your options. So is it a cake? Is it a biscuit? Obviously, you can add more options if you want. You could have multiple answers. And if you look down here, you can share the results automatically, which is quite good. So that's you getting instant feedback again. And also you can keep the responses as anonymous, so nobody will know and you won't know who's actually put in the answers. So you save it, you will come up and you can look at it again, you can check there's nothing wrong with it, you haven't got any spelling mistakes. And down here, my screen's not moving up, but there's an edit button, so you could go in and edit a mistake, or you can just save it and it goes into your chat. Okay, so there is the question, what's the Jaffa cake? So I'll say it's a biscuit and I'll submit my vote. And down here, you've got an instant response. Okay, so the pupils can instantly feed back information to you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it back over to Lisa Ann to carry on with a few other things, okay?
Thank you. Okay, next up, in addition to creating a quiz, like Jackie just showed you, there's also an option of creating what's called an adaptive quiz. And basically what that does is it allows you to filter pupils off in a certain direction. So if they get a question correct, then it'll take them to a slightly trickier question. And if they get a question wrong, it will give them a little bit more teaching input and then give them a similar question, because obviously they've not quite got whatever that particular concept is. So you can create like a straightforward quiz, or you can create an adaptive quiz, which is ideal for differentiation. So basically what it does is it adapts in response to what the pupils answer, if their answers are correct or if their answers are wrong. And obviously it branches them off in different direction depending on those answers. And it's a really great opportunity for them realising where the gaps in their knowledge and learning are, and what skills they need to then focus on. So I have one here. Let me just go to my desktop. So this is an example of a Microsoft adaptive quiz for telling time. It's an American, third grade. And I'm just going to show you the different ways that this works. So obviously it's 6 o'clock, and if I get that correct, then question 2 pops up. And question 2 is obviously trickier because it's going to 1:45. So, and obviously that continues on. The more questions you fill in, it branches you off accordingly. However, if I take that exact same quiz again, but this time, if I get it wrong, so let's say I say it's 12:30, you will see now that it's bringing me to this sort of learn screen, telling me how to tell the time for o'clock. And I can either try that again, or I can move back on. So it's quite handy for differentiation. It means you're giving all the pupils the same quiz. It's really good if you're revisiting something. So if, for example, you're doing a topic that you know they've done last year, or a while ago, a few terms ago, and you think something you've covered, but you're not quite sure where they're all at, this is a great way of doing a differentiated assignment. And this is called a branching quiz. Now, to create a branching quiz, if I go back, first of all, when you're in your forms, you can't create a branching quiz from a new form like I did originally, because that's obviously with no right and wrong answers. It doesn't let you do that. You have to be in the new quiz option. So if you click on quiz, just put in something like what time is it? And add new, do a choice. Yep, so if I put what time is it? Over here, click on an image, and let's find a clock. Okay, so if I go with this one. Okay, so it's obviously 6 o'clock. So option 1, let's say it's 2 o'clock. Option 2 can be 4:30. And I'm going to have a new option. Oh, Let's go back to a new question. Oops. There. Add option. Let's go for 6 o'clock. Which is obviously the correct option. So now what you need to do is, my mouse is not happy today at all. Over here in the ellipses, you want to click on add branching. And what that lets you do is it lets you filter where they go depending on the answer. So if they chose 2 o'clock, then, oh, I need to have another question in to divert them to, then I would divert them to a learn screen that said, you know, this is how you tell the time o'clock. If they said it was 4:40, I would do the exact same learn screen. So these two are going to go to the same place, which is basically reteaching them. If they get it right, then you're going to jump down to the following question after. So you'll be going to question 3. That is basically how you create a branching differentiated form. One thing to be aware of, this chart here shows you basically how it works. One thing to make you aware of though is that if they get question 1 incorrect, you have to bring them down to a learn screen and then down to another question. It doesn't let you jump back up. So it won't let you, so if they get that question incorrect and it brings them down saying this is how you tell the time, and then you've got an option of try again, you have to create this question again further down the branch. It doesn't let you jump up the branch. It just doesn't work, which really confused me the first time I tried to use it. So just be aware of that whenever you are directing pupils somewhere within the quiz, you must be directing them down the branches. It will not allow you to jump up. I'm not quite sure why they've created it that way. I personally would prefer the ability to jump back and go and flow back down again, but just be aware that it doesn't let you do that. I'm going to give you a handout which explains adaptive quizzes in a lot more detail. I realise I've just kind of flown through that there, but we're pushed for time, but I will give you a takeaway which focuses specifically on creating an adaptive quiz. And next up, Jackie is going to take you through settings, sharings and themes.
Right. Now we're going to look at the settings. So if you go up to the 3 dots in the top right hand corner, this is where your settings will be. Now this is quite important, so that's part of the forms. The first bit is options for the quiz. Show the results automatically. So that's when I was showing you that the pupils can click on the few results and they can see their feedback instantly. Now, because I run a lot of quizzes, I don't necessarily want them to see the answers because I don't want them to tell anybody else. But maybe if you set a quiz for their homework, you don't want them to tell each other the answers either. So you might want to see that you don't see the answers until you manually allow them to see their answers. So you can just toggle between this, whatever you want to do with that bit. Down here is who can fill in the form. Okay, in the Glow environment, that's really you only want people within Glow to actually respond to your form. Okay, you can record their name or you can make it anonymous. It really is up to you. I like to see their names, especially obviously if it's a competition. But if you've sent out homework, you want to know who's submitted that homework. And also, I only ever want one person to respond to it. One response per person, okay? A new feature that's just appeared is specific people in an organisation, so you can click on that and actually just send it to specific people. So options for responses. Now, again, you could maybe have a whole piece of homework that you want to set as a quiz, and you want to set a time and a date limit. So it could be that on Monday, you want this quiz to go out at, say, let's see, 4 o'clock or 4 o'clock, and you want it to end. So you want to give them, say, all week to actually do their homework. So you might say, right, you to return your homework Friday morning at, see, move this up here, and well, no, at 9:30 in the morning. That's when they'll have completed all their forms. That's your set time limit, and I do that quite a lot in competitions. I'll set the close date so that I know that all the entries are in and there can be no late entries. Okay. Another thing that's quite handy is shuffle questions. Now, if you're maybe using a quiz in a class and the kids are sitting next to each other on the computers, you might not want them to be answering the same question at the same time. So you maybe click on shuffle questions, and that means that everybody in the class will probably be reading a different question at a different time. You can also customize your thank you message. So it could be, if you've set a homework assignment, you could say, well done for completing your homework. The homework. And that will actually go out when they submit it. That will be the message that they get. Down here, response receipts. Now, you could allow pupils to get responses, that's fine. But this one here, get an email notification of each response, that can actually be quite dangerous. If you've sent out the form to maybe 200 pupils in your school, you will get 200 bleeps when all the forms have been returned to you, and it's probably not what you want, so I'd be careful of that one. But if you just send them out to a small class of 10, you might want to be notified as soon as somebody puts ones in, submitted one, so then you just click on that. Okay. So the next thing we're going to look at is sharing. Okay, so we'll go up to the share button. Now, you can share your form. Now, you can put them in your Teams or you could email them to people. All you have to do is click on the link and copy it and then put it into whatever document or form you want to. So you could put it into a Sway or you could put it into your Teams. You can also use a QR code, and I've used this quite a lot. I've created posters for library competitions, put the QR code on it, and you see pupils using their mobiles to scan the QR code and it will take them straight into their form. You can also embed it into a document. So as I say, I've embedded a lot of sways into, forms into my sways. So I just do that, and then you can directly email them as well. The template, you can duplicate it. Okay, so you can get a code for duplicate it. You might find that one of your friends or other teachers have said, oh, that's a really good quiz, can I use it? So you can send the copy link to that member of staff and then they could use it with their class. Or it could be that you want to work on the form with someone else. This is quite handy, maybe if you're a job share and the two of you want to work on the quiz together, you can copy a link, which means the person can view it and edit it as well. So themes, go on to themes next. Themes just make your form look a little bit different, more fun, more colourful. So you can pick whatever theme you want. I like the pencils, so if you click that and if you preview it, you see that that decorates around the edges of it and changes the colour here. Okay, so it makes it quite colourful. You can also maybe just use a solid colour. You'll get these down here. Or say you were doing a quiz on space, you could click on space, and that is how the pupils will see your form when they view it in their mobile. And if you click on mobile, it's just a little bit disappointing. It actually looks better on their computers. Okay, so that's your themes. So next thing we want to do, you can also, sorry, I forgot to mention, in themes you can actually also upload your own background that you want to create. Okay. Sometimes I usually use a colour because I've put in graphics into it, and it just so I don't want to be distracted from all the colours. Okay. So we go back to the results. So go back to preview, back, and then you've got your responses. Now I filled in that form 3 times, so that is my responses there. For you to see your responses, you just click on that, and as you can see, there was 3 responses. Average score was 10. Okay, the form is still open because I haven't set a close date. Okay, you can review the results there. Okay, you can post scores to the kids if you want. You can review the answers, and this is quite good. So that was my first try, and you can see how long it's taken them to complete the form, and you can see their score. Also, if you click on the 3 points, you can delete the responses, you can print them or post the scores. Okay, And if you want to see the next person, you just click on the arrow and it'll take you to the next person's results. Again, 10 out of 20. Okay, but you can also look at specific questions as well. So you might want to see which question was answered the best and which wasn't, okay? So if you're finding that your class is failing on a particular theory or skill that they haven't got, you can actually identify that, and then you can go back and you can maybe do a little bit of revision on that because you've now identified it. Go back to the people, okay, and if we go back to responses again, this is where you can click on 3 dots and you can delete all the responses, and you could reuse this form again for another class. But what I suggest is you always try the form out yourself so that you know it's working correctly, and then delete your responses before you actually send it out to the pupils. You can print the summary, which is here, or you can create a summary link. So it could be that you want to send this test results to your head of department or head of year. You can actually click, create a link and send that to them, and they'd be able to view it. Over here as well, you can click on Excel. And as Lisa Ann mentioned earlier on, you can click into Excel, all the information will load onto an Excel sheet. And from there, you can fiddle around with all the information, filter it in whatever way you want to get the results that you're looking for, okay? So now I'm going to pass you back over to Lisa Ann to finish off.
Yep. Last thing is I'm just going to talk about integration of forms with other things. So if we come over to my forms, let me just choose a random one. This one. A word of warning with sharing forms. A lot of people I know have made the critical mistake of they see a colleague's form and say, oh, that looks great. I want to use that. Could you send me the link? And they send them this link here, which is the pupil response link. But what that actually means is if, for example, that was my form and I sent another primary 1 teacher this link, it means that all of the responses in here are now going to be my class's responses plus the other primary 1 teacher's responses who's also using this link here. So just be aware of that. If you're sending a form to a colleague, always do the template one. And that means it's creating a fresh copy for them to collect the results. I know quite a few people have made that mistake and lived to regret it because instead of getting their class responses in here, they've got about 100 for an entire year group. So this link here, this one should only ever go to pupils or parents. That should never go to one of your colleagues. Okay, so sharing forms. If I take this link here, so I've copied that link, and I go into Teams. Let's go down to a test team I've got. You could simply just, within Teams, create an announcement saying, please complete this quiz about, I don't know, just put topic quiz or something, whatever it is. And then simply within here, you can paste it. And that's obviously just sending a link to your class. So that's one way you could do it. Another thing that you could do is just up here, you could create a new website, which could be like this, sorry, a new tab. This week's quiz. And then paste the link in here. And save that. And what that means is, that form's closed, so it's not going to come up. But that would come up if that was an active forum. The actual form would just come up there as a web page. Be careful you don't choose a closed form or it doesn't work. So you can obviously do that as well. Another option you can do is you can go to your assignments, create a new quiz, and then obviously here this is all of the various different quizzes I've set up. So if I choose, for example, that one and click next, then that will come up directly when pupils get their assignment. Let me just assign this so you can see what it looks like. So if I go into this primary 4 word quiz and I go to student view, it just comes up like this. So they click on that, the quiz comes up, and then when they submit it, it automatically submits that assignment. So just be careful that you don't assign a quiz along with other things you want doing, like you know, a Word document or a PDF of some description, because once they submit the quiz, it submits the whole assignment. So just be aware of that. If you're sending out a quiz, make that the only piece of work that's in that particular assignment. Another option available to you, let me just choose an active link and not that one that's closed, is if I go into show more. Okay, so if I choose this one, if I take this link, go back to Teams. If I then go into class notebook, and if I go into the teacher section here and add a page, I can put quiz here. If I then paste that link and press enter, it directly embeds the quiz for me into class notebook. So that's really useful. And then obviously you could send this notebook page out as an assignment as well, or you could just have it sitting in the pupils' class notebooks to complete. So you can really easily integrate it in there. Another place you can integrate quizzes is in ThingLink. So if I go into, for example, here, you will see that on this particular part of the ThingLink is a quiz. And that's really easy to do, again, just by using the share code that can come up within a ThingLink. So there's loads of great ways of integrating it. A brand new feature that Microsoft have just recently released is if you go into Excel on the web app, not your full version, but the web one, and create a new notebook, a new Excel workbook. And if you go to Insert, and then you click Forms and create a new form, you can create a form within here. Now the difference between doing this and doing the forms via the sort of forms regular way of doing it is when you do it this way, what it does is it automatically updates this Excel sheet for you. So you could be sitting in work with this page open and it will literally start populating itself as pupils submit their responses. Whereas if you are in forms, so if you're in your normal forms and you click on your responses here and you open this in Excel, this will only be accurate up to this point in time. So if I open this in Excel now, and then 2 or 3 minutes later someone else submits a response, I need to come back in here and open it up in Excel again to get that update. So it's really useful if you're looking to be monitoring live updates about how things are happening, to do it via the Excel app. It's great. You can just, I tried this out the other day and it was brilliant, just sitting watching the results being populated live. So that's a really great new feature that Microsoft have just released. And we are finished bang on time, which is fantastic. The only thing to remind you of now is obviously you can redeem codes in the MEC for attending this session. Let me just bring the PowerPoint back up for that. If you've not been into the Microsoft Education Centre, I highly recommend that you do, and you can redeem codes for all of these different training sessions. Even if you're watching them back on video, you can still go in to redeem the codes. Oh, and a couple of features that are coming soon to look out for in forums is at the moment you can store 200 forms, but Microsoft are upping that to 400. And they're also going to introduce text formatting within the questions. So when you highlight text, you'll be able to bold, underline, or italicize it. But it's rolling out. We don't have it in the moment, but it is coming soon. So if you go into the Microsoft Education Centre, if you're primary, you can put in this redeem code. If you're secondary, you can put in this one. And thank you very much for coming. If anyone has any questions, please type them in the chat window. Otherwise, thanks for coming, and don't forget to redeem your codes.